Let's talk about the big one, Will. They're all big. It's rivalry week, but man, I'm excited for this one. 13 years in the making. Number 3, Texas, a 6-point favorite against number 20, Texas A&M. The over-under, 1.5 shots of Justin Tucker getting carried off Kyle Field. You know where I'm talking about here. The last time these teams played, in case you forgot, walk-off 40-yarder, win it for Texas, and a game that I said Texas. Tucker and Texas.
There you go.
Texas.
They would be selling shirts today if that happened.
They would. Justin Tucker would be doing well from an NIL standpoint. I don't doubt that. 13 years is a long time. Long time. There are kids in high school right now who do not remember a time when these two teams played every single year. There's a new generation that is going to be discovering this rivalry, and that starts on Saturday. Assuming that, well, I shouldn't assume anything, but they've probably been on social media and have had the rivalry there. And I am just so glad that these teams are actually playing football instead of just fighting on social media. I think these fan bases might hate each other more than any fan bases on the internet. Ball Twitter versus everyone. UCF versus anyone who mentions UCF. Texas A&M. That's the 3.
But see, Oklahoma fans, I think, will push back
OU
there because
fans?
I know they're the number one rival, but OU fans have a solid Twitter game. Like
True.
they got enough. They got the perfect balance of the facts and the Delulu. You know, I really appreciate that at OU fans. You can't really tell if they're being truthful or good faith or not. They're really good at it.
I would have Texas fans get in my mentions years ago before we found out Texas was joining the SEC. I'd tweet about Isaiah Spiller or something. And they'd be all in my mentions about, I wouldn't be able to do anything against Texas defensive lineers. Just stuff like that.
Who's that guy, Oolong or whatever, making a chart for you? Yeah. Oh, let me look that up.
Oh, God. Sorry. Horn guy 74. I respect your unbiased opinion on this.
Yeah.
Great that these teams are playing football, though. It is. Great that these teams are playing in an SEC semifinal. That's what this game is. Neither of these teams have been to an SEC championship. The winner obviously gets to do that. If Texas wins, something tells me, based on history and everything I just said, Longhorn fans would probably remind A&M fans that even though A&M got a 12-year head start, Texas would have more SEC championship berths than the Aggies. That would be making the rounds. Very obvious. A&M hasn't been to a conference title game since 1998. Bill Clinton administration. Yeah. This game, obviously, this has passed the LSU game a month and a half ago, whatever that was, for the most meaningful game at Kyle Field in the post Johnny Manziel era. Okay. I guess that was only a month ago. And I'd argue this is bigger than any game at Kyle Field with Manziel. I think it is. You know, given what A&M can still do. Rivalries returning, of course, that's really important. Manziel never got to play against Texas, but Texas has everything on the table, as does A&M. Huge game, and so telling that College Game Day announced it was going to this game as A&M was just getting dragged 21-0 by Auburn. That's when that announcement came out. And the big question that everyone's going to have once the pageantry subsides, how healthy is Quinn Ewers' ankle? We don't know. Sark said he's been practicing. We know that he was a totally different quarterback in the second half against Kentucky. He was super limited. Texas offense was really stuck in the mud, at least from a passing standpoint. They got the ground game going late, but he's practicing as of Tuesday afternoon when we're recording this. That's all we really know. Everything is to be determined. I think if you're A&M, I don't care what they say about Ewers. I am preparing for both Ewers and Arch. You have to. If Ewers isn't himself, I would expect Sark to turn to Arch. I have been pushing back against that. You know that. I have been the guy all year saying he's not going to put in Arch. He's not going to put in Arch. I couldn't believe when Sark put in Arch against Georgia. I was stunned that happened. I have been from day one, the day that Arch committed to Texas, I said, they love Quinn Ewers. They love Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers is still going to be the starter. I have been that guy. But if Ewers is looking like a lesser version of himself and they fall behind by 2 scores or something like that, and the Texas offense just can't get going, it's going to be Arch time. I do. Put in the more mobile quarterback, try and be able to, figure things out. Last I checked, putting in a more mobile backup quarterback at Kyle Field is a really sound strategy. It works.
Some would say.
The question is if Texas is going to need that. I am extremely tempted to pick A&M to bounce off the mat, play with its hair on fire against Texas. I could definitely see that scenario happening. But think about this. These two huge headliner home games that Texas A&M has had this year. And I guess you could throw Mizzou in there as well. You know, what we thought of that ranking being inflated. That's still a headliner home game. But the headliner home games at night, Notre Dame and LSU. A&M didn't really come out with its hair on fire. You know, slow starts in both. Adjustments won out against LSU. It wasn't because they were fired up to play that got them that victory. That atmosphere was unbelievable. It wasn't unbelievable until they turned things around and they put in Marcel Reed. I don't know that Mike Elko is ready to win a 60-minute chess match with Sark. By the way, Sark has won 25 consecutive games against non-top 15 teams. A&M, non-top 15. I think A&M hangs around. I do. But I think Ewers plays well enough, even if he doesn't have his full mobility. I think he plays well enough, and this Texas defense does some of the heavy lifting, force 2 picks of Marcel Reed, including one to end the game, Jahdae Barron, a grinder of a game, and Texas wins 21-17.
You know, man, this is just a very specific, and you know, it goes back to the point about I was making about Brian Kelly. It's like a very specific personal hole for me where I have to go, okay, well, I look at these quarterbacks, you know, Marcel Reed, Jalen Milroe, and LSU made them look like gods on earth. And now I have to be like, wait, actually, how much of that was LSU just being dumb? And the answer is, it appears, mostly that. Just to be honest with you, because I really do like PK, the Texas defensive coordinator, in this one. It would shock me if that kind of offense worked against Texas. Yeah, it could be kind of successful against Auburn. And I mean, like, it was successful against Auburn. It was successful against LSU in the second half. But given what we've seen from Texas, you know, against these mobile quarterbacks, the way they force turnovers, the way they push the line of scrimmage, I mean, the edges of that defense are just like wildfire. And to get outside the way that they did against LSU in that second half would look so foreign to me against this Texas defense that, again, we've talked about. The offense has been kind of, you know, it's been up and down, but mainly because of injuries, because of guys not being fully healthy, because of, you know, guys not panning out the way we expected. But the defense has been, I mean, pretty much rock solid throughout. Again, even played a great game against Georgia. I will die on that hill, the way that they turned Carson Beck over. Like, and so I always like to think, what does this game look like if, you know, if it goes this team's way, or what does it look like if it goes this team's way? Well, for A&M, it would be that, you know, Reed comes out there and looks like, I mean, basically throws the ball 20 to 25 times for like a 60% completion, right?
He's getting better as a passer too, if you've noticed. I like the strides that Marcel Reed has been making.
Yeah, and he's improving. I mean, he beat LSU with 2 pass attempts. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't necessary in that game, and he's had to build it from there. And point being, you know, I don't think you're going to beat this Texas defense on your legs. I really don't. I've seen, you know, we saw Oklahoma kind of try. We've seen a couple teams kind of try. But I think they are specifically built to stop that type of quarterback. They're so disciplined. They are in, you know, they have gap control. They quote unquote gamble in that they they jump routes and create turnovers, but I think they do it all within the flow of the defense. And so that being said, you know, the A&M defense, I think Quinn Ewers is getting to where he's a little bit of a sitting duck. We've talked about that, you know, and it's funny because I think it was actually the Oklahoma game. I was like, don't be surprised, you know, if Ewers kind of struggles and Arch goes in. And it's funny because you're right, that ends up happening, but it was against Georgia when they were, you know, when he was really struggling. And I get that, but Sark at this point has had to pull so many levers on offense that even if Ewers comes out there and he looks like late career Peyton Manning, he'll just go to Arch at this point in the season. Like, it's just like, bro, okay, like, we need to win this dang game. I don't care what your recruiting ranking was. I know your shoulder hurts. Take a seat. Let's figure this out. And
it's different him being hurt. It's different being hurt and what's on the line as opposed to you're not really cutting the mustard for us. Yeah. We don't think you're playing well enough. I think it's different if you can tell physically he's ailing. You put Arch in. That's a much easier thing to say to your guy to keep him locked in, as opposed to I am benching you for just strictly performance related reasons.
Yes, and I'm not sure how healthy he's been all year as we kind of talk about that, right? Because it's never looked great at Quinn Ewers. It's never looked like he was zipping the ball down the field, comfortably hitting receivers. The offense has looked good for stretches. It's been a formidable offense. But it's really been a lot of guys running wide open. It's been great scheme design. We saw that at Alabama with Sark, where it's like, how did that guy get? Oh, there were 3 orbit motions, and the defenders were 19, and they got a calculus test, and that guy's open now. And so, point being, like it's never been. Quinn Ewers has not stepped into this role that we expected him to. Be that justly or not, it's mostly because of injury. We agree, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at this point in the season why. If you're not getting it done, if you're a quarterback in the SEC, if your team is at this point, ranked number 3, then I think it's almost a benefit to Sark because he can get Ewers out there, and if he's playing well into the situation, great, you're getting ready for the playoff. If not, he could set up for exactly what A&M did to LSU. He comes out with Arch in the second half. Oh my gosh! And then you got a mobile quarterback. Now A&M's got to figure that out. So I think there are just so many more levers that Texas can pull. With this team that Sark has developed, with this offense he really understands, with this defense is playing great, then Texas A&M, who again, like I keep, banging this drum up. This is a first-year head coach. This is a team that lost a ton of talent. They kept a lot of talent. They brought in some great coaches, but this was never supposed to be this for Texas A&M. And Texas has been weirdly a built not bought team who has then brought in guys to kind of be the icing on the cake. But this is a solid, sturdy football team that has, they've weathered the storm against teams like Arkansas. They've weathered the loss against Georgia. So yeah, I think that this is an opportunity for Texas to basically everybody but Quinn Ewers to show up and out physical A&M.
Only thing I wonder about with Texas, because I love this defense, love the defense, think it's absolutely legit. I'm trying to think if there's a quarterback that they've faced that's similar to this version of Marcel Reed. And I don't think they have. Mm-hmm. Just in terms of what he has become. Not because I don't think he's a one-dimensional guy anymore. I think they're really becoming more comfortable. These receivers are getting on the same page with him. And you saw it in that comeback, even in a loss against Auburn, where like he's developed a little bit more of this poise in the passing game and comfortability that I think took time, and it was always going to take a little bit of time. But I wonder how many guys Texas has seen that's truly been like that. Because even Taylor Green banged up, kind of does moves differently than Marcel Reed does. I mean, I don't know, what are they, 5-6 inches different height in terms of that? Like
Green's his own
they
guy,
move differently. Yeah,
physically
they see the field differently, like all those things. And can that be something that works in A&M's favor? Can that be a change up for a Texas defense that has seen a lot of teams try and throw that fastball and try and hit that fastball in the outer third of the plate? And instead, you've got this Texas team that can defend that. They have the ability to defend that, but can they defend everything that Reed does when he's right? Will they force him into some of these tougher spots where he's making some of those predetermined decisions and he's maybe like, all right, you just can't make that throw in that spot. Oh, God, you can't assume that you're going to beat Anthony Hill Jr. to the edge. That guy is going to be able to track you down. That's a loss of 4. You got to be able to get rid of the football. Those are the things I wonder about with this matchup that I think makes it really intriguing. But I just trust Texas. And I know that A&M fans don't want to hear that. The spin zone for any sort of 8-4 jokes that are going to be made at A&M's defense if they lose this game. You're playing in an SEC semifinal. Mm-hmm. Do not soak that in. Appreciate that, because there are so many teams in this sport that wish that they could have essentially a 2-game playoff. Your playoff starts now if you're A&M. There are so many people that wish that they had that. And yes, A&M has the 3rd loss. That's brutal. That sucks. They wish they were going into this with just the 2 losses and knowing, hey, like we could end up being a team that gets into the SEC championship, playing for that first round bye, and who knows what can happen after that. But you have a chance. Do you take advantage of it? It's possible. But I just like this Texas team, even amidst the flaws that they have shown us.
Yeah, I think, the 2 guys you look at, and it's funny because there's about a foot of height difference between them, is Diego Pavia and Taylor Green. And I think that, with Diego Pavia, we talked about, they started the game
best
hot.
Comp. That's the best comp. Yeah. You're right. That Texas has seen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, everything was going right for Diego Pavia. They had that great start to the game. But in the end, they were able to pick him off twice. And I think that, Diego Pavia is a better passer than Marcel Reed. You know what I'm saying? Like he has been for most of the year.
I'll take Reed in that discussion. I think Pavia is better. Yeah. I think Pavia is better with his legs. I'll take Reed in that discussion.
I would actually flip that. I think that Diego Pavia is a better passer and Reed is a better, more physical. He's just a bigger, more physical, athletic guy. I would rather have now. Granted, as far as the decisiveness as a runner, which you really need to run a little bit of that triple option that Vandy does. But yeah, I think that as close as you can to have a true dual threat quarterback. There has for sure been one in the SEC. Put some respect on Diego Pavia. He's getting hurt now. Not the version against LSU was not. That was the hottest. Yeah. Highest riding, best Diego Pavia, and they picked him off twice at the end of the game. So, yeah, I think if they can figure that out, it's for the same reasons. They created pressure. They had created bad decisions. So, yeah, I got Texas winning this one and kind of shutting the door late, say, like 10 points to 2 scores.
Can't wait for it. I said earlier, I don't want to say every single week this is my favorite game of the year. I think this might end up being my favorite game of the year. It'll replace the buildup that we had for Tennessee, Oklahoma. And this is my favorite game of the year. I am so looking forward to this. I'm just praying that I'm not going to be on fumes at the end of rivalry week. A lot of football on Friday and Saturday as well. Friday is a super underrated day for football, but this should be great on Saturday night. It should be an absolutely awesome atmosphere at Kyle Field. It should be incredible.